Hi, Rhea. It is so nice to see you today.
Thanks, Sydney. It's my pleasure. It's great to hear about your program and learn more about it.
Yeah. Our fashion management MPS students are learning about sustainability and sustainable materials this week. And in fact, we are reading the Textile Exchange Preferred Fiber and Material 2020 report. So I could not think of a better person than to speak with this week to talk about this subject.
That's great. Well, it sounds like you've got them doing their homework, and that's a good place to start.
Absolutely. Well, I really want to start with you initially. You have such a fascinating background, and you're the CEO of Textile Exchange. But I'd really love to hear about your professional journey before you got to Textile Exchange.
A professional journey. Well, the place where we end up being is always a culmination of life's experience and kind of a journey. But that being said, I would say that my formal training is education. When I went to college, I started out at Abilene Christian University with the plans of getting a degree in fashion design and textiles. But then I met this guy, and he and my granddaddy hit it off. As the oldest grandchild, there was some expectation that I would come back to the farm. So I'm like, this fashion design degree might not be, the most impactful in out there on the farm. Little did I know where I would head, but it was certainly a part of the foundation. But I ended up with my degree in education, primarily early education. So I was a kindergarten teacher. And I have to say, I think the fact that education is such a core part of who I am, and that teacher part of me is given me the foundation for a lot of the way we've developed the exchange over the years. I also consider myself, and I guess your students do too, you're in class because you're a lifelong learner. So I do have, and I would say you need to keep that hunger and thirst for knowledge. But I also have my master's degree in organizational leadership. If you want to be a better piano player, you take piano lessons. If you want to be a better leader or a fashion designer or a textile engineer or whatever the case may be, then you're going to continue your education. And so I feel really proud that Textile Exchange has evolved. We have a high impact organizational through an ecosystem design that really not only is internal but external as well. So I think that that's a cornerstone of how we're able to impact the industry. So I'd say that my professional piece is going to be education, lifelong learner, but you have to do the homework, you have to do the work, you have to do the practice to
Yeah,
become have that expertise.
yeah. And you're such an advocate for organic farming and sustainable practices in the textile supply chain. Like, where did this passion come from? Because I mean, you are really leading the way in regards to sustainable materials and fibers. So, like, what is this fire inside of you that ignited this?
Well, part of it is because I grew up on a cotton farm.
Mhm.
And so when it's a part of your DNA, it's a part of your community, and you see how, things have eroded, not just in the United States, but other places as where the farm used to support the farm and the family and the community. And agriculture was a core, part of our world. But right now, agriculture is marginalized around the world. And so it's been interesting in my lifetime to see the transition. So part of that passion is coming from a place of really understanding the dynamics of what's going on, because it's a part of my life. The other piece is that when my husband and I came back to farming, it was at the beginning of the farm crisis in the 1980s and so it was about, how do I protect my land? How do I protect my family? There's that protective piece. And my grandfather was a huge impact in my life, and the importance of stewardship and how we take care of the land and how we take care of the people. So it kind of evolved that we were organic in mindset. So people ask why I'm an organic advocate or organic farmers, because I don't know any better. That's how I was raised. It's part of my heritage, but it's also part of my legacy. I have 7 grandchildren, and those grandchildren are so precious. And it's like, how can we leave them a world like this? And so that feeds the fire in my belly for sure. And some people might know I lost my husband to a brain tumor. And, it's one of those things where organic was no longer important. It was imperative. It's not just about reducing pesticides and toxic persistent pesticides in our world. It's about eliminating them. We know we can do it. We have the technology to do it. But we'll talk about it later, I'm sure, when we get to price paradigms, but there have been obstacles to that. But that's what lights the fire in my belly. It's about protecting land. It's about protecting families. It's about really transforming agriculture to be that thriving, safe place to raise your family, to live on the land and take care of the land.
Yeah, incredible. We're certainly benefiting from your passion, so thank you. So tell us about the Textile Exchange and this incredible report that you put out that every single conscious company and leader in the world are really using as a Bible of how do we source our materials and recycle. And, and like you said, it's very complex and it continues to evolve. So I just love to hear about the organization and how you've evolved.
Well, we started out as the Organic Exchange, really focusing on organic cotton, but the principles remain in place. We convened to have not just collective action, but connected action as a community. And so it's like, what are the obstacles? What do we need to do? And so a lot of that, and the teacher in me, probably the teacher in you, is like, what do we need to know to make good decisions? So the reports are a cornerstone and have been a part of us from the beginning of what is going on. The first thing we did was harmonization of standards. Is everybody, organic in Turkey wasn't the same as organic in Turkey or Tanzania, and so it was about what are the barriers to growth and how do we take that collective connected action. And so reports have been a cornerstone. You can't make good decisions without good information. And so the report has evolved. We've evolved from Organic Exchange to Textile Exchange. We wear more than one fiber. So it's truly about that portfolio approach, but the practices remain the same. It's about shifting to a more responsible production system. It's about commitments. It's about placing that product. It's about talking to consumers. So the principles remain the same regardless of the fiber. So it's evolved from Organic Exchange to Textile Exchange. And while we still maintain the organic cotton market report because of the unique circumstances, the preferred fiber market report has evolved to encompass that broader portfolio and should give you some deep dives on things that are going on with specific fibers. So again, it's there. You can't make good decisions without good information, and it has continued to evolve and be a driving principle.
Yeah. So this is a massive undertaking. A lot of people are involved. What would you say have been your biggest challenges? And maybe it's just 2 or 3 to really move this agenda forward. The report is incredible because, you talk about, like polyester is the most widely produced material out there, and then cotton, and then you really then start breaking it down of, well, how much is really sustainable, and then really leading all of us to find the exact resources in what region in the world. And then I love when we get into like wool and really start talking about animals and leather. But it's a lot. So like, what would you say is, your 2 or 3 biggest challenges of really trying to not just educate all of us, but to have individuals and companies start really using this incredible tool?
Yeah. Well, I think that there's that threshold of where there's a place of knowledge. And so that is about the reports, but then it is taking that and transforming that into a mechanism that can be a tool, where, okay, what am I using? What circumstance am I in? For a brand to really look at what portfolio fibers are you using? Where's the low-hanging fruit to drive change? And so it is about not just the education piece, but turning that into action piece. So that's one of the obstacles, that there's a lot of information out there, but are people able to act on it? And do they have the tools? Do they have the ability to transform that into a proposal that goes to the buying team, that goes to their CFO? And so there's a stage in here of, how we drive action. Again, more training, access to tools, and really understanding the dynamics. Right now, the biggest barrier when we talk to our members, and it's been there from the beginning, is price. They would buy, the single biggest barrier is, it costs more. Of course it costs more. The current price paradigm has created the poverty and the pollution and the problems to think that you're going to get more responsible wool or more organic cotton or recycled polyester from the existing system that's created the problem is ludicrous. But so that obstacle of the existing infrastructure, existing mindsets with business models, how do we turn those environmental profit and loss or those natural cost accounting pieces into not just conceptual dollars, but real dollars? How do you get investors and stockholders to say, not only do you have to have a black and white profit and loss statement, but you have to have a black lined profitable environmental profit and loss. So how do, that is the biggest obstacle across the industry, not just ours. The same thing's happening in every industry when you think about preferred materials, organic materials, regenerative and restorative materials. We're paying for the practices of overgrazing. You're going to have to invest in restoration. And so there's a huge, huge obstacle there. So that comes with, again, tools. It comes with training. I think we're going to have to, the brands that are making it happen have been able to shift gears around their business models and that mindset. So,
yeah. No, I mean, you're so right. And what I'm thinking also is for the companies, yes, but we need to really do a much better job educating the consumer too.
Absolutely.
And that this is precious. And these materials will last longer. They're good for the earth. They're good for people. Mm-hmm. So the consumer piece is a huge piece as well. So, okay, we have a big challenge with price and infrastructure, but there's probably a ton of, the fashion industry is reimagining right now.
It is.
Itself. And I'm sure you're seeing a lot of innovation out there. So what would you say are you most excited about in your area of expertise that's coming forward for us?
Well, I actually think that price to value paradigm is where some of the innovation is occurring, to where we're really looking at what is the value, the intrinsic value in these products. And I was talking to a group of students, high school students here locally, and I said, what if our currency, instead of being gold-based, were bee-based? About biodiversity. What if the value of your economy was based upon how you took care of the environment and that bees had a thriving place to be? And so it's really interesting that same obstacle, it's a double-edged sword, that same big barrier, there's an awakening that's happening for sure. And so I think part of the things tied to delivering value, we know we're delivering value, but we have to prove it. So there's a lot of work being done on primary data collection. There's work being more done on life cycle analysis and creating biodiversity reports, collecting primary data that there's proof. There's proof that the consumer is buying a product that is delivering value. So that's one of the big opportunities, is making sure that we can communicate those preferences and of choices that farmers are making that deliver value. And that way consumers can make that informed choice too. So that same obstacle of delivering value is that opportunity. So that means traceability. That means transparency. That also means that brands that are making it happen are getting that they have to make a commitment and they have to make an investment in driving these changes. So that whole bit of connecting with farmers, connecting with their supply networks, connecting with recycling projects in New York City, for example, there's a lot of connecting with the supply chain that is happening right now, that had more engagement that hasn't been happening before. So there was talk of it, and there were several leading brands doing it, but now it's happening in a broader, more comprehensive way across the board. So that's a very exciting place of education and opportunity that I see. The other thing that's really encouraging to me is, again, a bit of a double-edged sword, is the lens that everybody's looking through with climate change. We have 10 years to shift the tide on climate change. So it's putting the whole industry through another lens. So while it's been maybe organic versus GMOs, or impacts on polyester versus recycling, does it come from pop bottles or is it coming from circular use? There's these debates, but it's like, people, we have proven solutions. Some of this doesn't matter. These debates don't matter. Let's look at the bigger picture. And if it reduces greenhouse gases, let's move in that direction. And I think that's something I'm really proud of too, that Textile Exchange has been really good at, is that while we do have a direction of travel, we have a tip of the spear with organic cotton and regenerative agriculture, responsible wool, recycled standards. We do have standards that implement and showcase best practices. We're very open and inclusive. We consider ourselves the on-ramp as well. So that theory of change is that while, this is a specific space that says to have this claim, you have to deliver to these criteria. We're very open and inclusive to having this on-ramp in this direction of travel. So I think having and understanding where your company is. So when you think about working in the industry, it's like, first of all, understand where you are in the industry, where you are on this journey, where's the low-hanging fruit. And if you're just on the on-ramp, that's good. But make sure you're in that direction of travel and what things can you put in place. So really understanding the landscape, what the opportunities are. Again, that always a double-edged sword. Here's the positive side of that. So I do see more brands taking advantage of training, education, and creating a really strong fiber and material strategy of how they're going to take every fiber. So there's a lot of exciting things going on, actually.
Yeah, no, it sounds like it. Would you say, I know you said there were a few kind of pioneer conscious companies and now more are joining, but just on the top of your head, like when you think of the work that you're doing, can you point to any specific brands or organizations that are really kind of leading the way here, that have made it easier for other brands to kind of follow along?
Absolutely. There's a number of small and medium brands that have gone like, we're going 100% in recycled. We're going 100% responsible. Well, they're small enough they can go that 100%, and they may have a niche market or whatever. We're talking the Coyuchis of the world, the Patagonias of the world, Maggie's with clean clothes and socks and camisoles and things like that. Under the Nile with their babies. So there's companies that have gone the 100% place because they're small enough or they're niche, and they have the different business model that allows them to do that. They're doing a phenomenal job as well, talking to consumers. So they are kind of the grassroots of what is building momentum in our industry in a lot of ways. But that's not getting us the volume. So you come in here and you look at the H&Ms, the Gaps, the Levi's and the Nikes, and CNA, and Primark is doing amazing work in India with a women's education program and the Cotton Connect work that's going on and the training that's happening. So there's so many opportunities that a lot of the big brands are coming into, but they're starting out with what I'm going to call a token program or a capsule collection. They're kind of like, it's almost like a laboratory environment of, okay, what's it going to take? How do we do this? How do we set things up? What are the things that we have to put in the infrastructure? And really looking at those margins and what that looks like. And sometimes that's also kept them locked in, that they haven't been able to escape that capsule collection because they can't apply those same principles on the other 95% of their product group.
Yeah, no.
Very interesting that while the larger brands are doing some great work on volume, they have got the most work to do when it comes to really driving those proven solutions across their entire programs. And so there's a lot of things happening on that line. The other thing, and I can't really mention a couple names here, but there's a couple companies now that are like, okay, we have a 10-year vision in mind. We have a huge program, a basics program. It might be socks or underwear or babies or sheets or whatever, a basic program that is classic. It has continuity and consistency through even through COVID. And they're going to say, this year, 2021, it's going to have 10% organic. 2022, it's 20%. It mitigates some of the costs. They can't put a product claim, but they're opening the pipeline. They're making commitments to farmers. They're making long-term commitments. They're having, they're paying the price for organic cotton, but it's mitigating the cost of the product. But then it gives them the mechanism to be at 100% by 2030. and drive these positive change. So we call that a blended strategy.
Mhm.
I think there's different ways to look at it, but I would have you go to the leaderboards on our website with the corporate fiber benchmark and the material change index. There are some amazing brands out there doing some very innovative work.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, no, it's incredible. Just reading a report, I see all, you know, when they're different programs, how many big brands are truly signing up and saying, we are doing this, which is scary. But which means they're also going to hold their
Yeah.
obligation to the public, which I love.
Well, and that's something interesting too, because the brands are asking a lot from the supply chain. We want proof of this. We want we want you to participate in ZDHC. We want you putting renewable energy, you know, solar and wind. Here's all these things that the brands are demanding, so to speak. And so how are the brands going to be held accountable that they're actually delivering and they're following through and they're making those commitments? So that's one of the things that, for example, when you go to our 2025 Sustainable Cotton Challenge report, there's over 114 some odd brands that have committed to that. They're submitting all of their cotton use information. And, you know, we're checking it back to the programs, the initiatives that they're signed up to. And so those brands, I would also look to them as leaders because they're the ones who are willing to be accountable that they're actually purchasing this cotton and they're working with these initiatives in order to build programs. So it's good to see that two-way street, the accountability and partnership. I know when you think about delivering something to the consumers that represents and protects the value, the intrinsic value of this, that we shouldn't have it as that mindset of competition between the supply network or the supply chain. It should become that supply network where we're really running the relay race. I'm the farmer, I pass the baton to you, the spinner, who passes the baton to the fabric maker that passes the baton, that we're working together to deliver this product that drives value to the consumer.
Yeah. Yeah, it's fascinating. You know, you're incredibly busy. You got a lot going on. There's so many different priorities, but if you were to tell, you know, say to us, what is your top priority or top two priorities um, around material, especially with the lens of the fashion industry, what would you say those one or two priorities are?
Well, we just rolled out our 2030 Climate Plus strategy. So it is about the greenhouse gas reduction. We have put it out a bold, audacious goal of reducing greenhouse gases by 45%. So that's in that umbrella. My passion is going to be around regenerative agriculture. In fact, all of the 2025 sustainable cotton initiatives, we may disagree on insecticide use or whatever, but we do agree we have common ground literally in the ground. So I'm really excited about finding that common ground and implementing strong soil health programs across all of our land-based fibers. So that's something I'm going to be very involved in, whether it's man-made cellulosics. Think of all the grazing, you know, the reducing of desertification when you're talking about cashmere and some of the other goats. So it's very exciting to have this kind of soil focus, and it kind of gets back to me like to play in the dirt anyway.
Yeah.
So I'm very excited in our Climate Plus umbrella that I'm going to do some focusing on soil health. The other place is also building partnerships, where I'll be doing a lot of work with other groups like Sustainable Apparel Coalition and the UNFCCC, and to make sure that we're not islands of good, but that we're really connecting strategies. So I'm going to be working kind of at that policy strategy level of driving truly collective and connected impact. So I'm excited about that. But when you think about what our personal mission and what Textile Exchange's mission, it's about protecting and restoring the environment while enhancing lives. So the other piece that really tickles my taste buds is, okay, when we talk about, for example, cashmere, and not only are we addressing the desertification and rotational grazing, but we're actually protecting indigenous cultures.
Yeah.
And so it truly is the thing that really lights my fire. It goes back to my roots. I know what it's like to grow up on a farm. I know what it's like to see the challenges that farmers face and ranchers face. And so the other thing is, like, how do we really drive the poverty side of this and give people opportunities and have that farm of, instead of the exodus into the cities where the kids don't want to stay on the farm. It's like, how do we, like, of course I want to stay on the farm. And the farm is a vibrant, healthy, economically viable place. So I'd say that is kind of an undercurrent in everything that I do.
Yeah, those are incredible goals, and we're all going to benefit from them greatly. Thank you so much for your time today and so many words of wisdom. Our students are change makers in the fashion industry. And I guess, do you have any last words to say to them from your lens of expertise, to kind of send them out into the world, that would help them drive change as well?
Well, I think one of the things that's kind of kept a constant for me is to understand where you're going. That, you're not going to get where you want to go to if you don't know where you're going. And so I would say, I would challenge your students to really write their personal goals. What's your personal mantra? What difference do you want to make? At the end of the day, you've lived a long, healthy life at 80 or 90. My dad's 90, whatever the case may be. And you get to be, that whisper of a spirit that's there at your wake or your service or your memorial service. And it's like, what were people saying about you? Are you leaving a legacy?
Mm.
And so what your students are doing now, I'm 63, so I'm well into that legacy piece, but I have a vision. In fact, my personal mantra is keep the vision, build the bridges, and be willing to take the journey. You might have a great vision, but if you don't invest, if you don't engage, if you don't take action, if you're not out there making it happen, then you just have a great vision. You have to build the bridges. And the last part of my mantra is you have to be willing to take the journey. You have to be willing to step out on that bridge. And a lot of times if I'm going someplace on a hike with my kids or grandkids or something, it's like, we're going to the top of the mountain. I don't tell them there's a swamp and that we're going to have to, our feet are going to get wet and that we're going to have to climb over stumps and that we're going to be hungry on the way. None of that. It's like you as a leader, you come equipped for that, but you keep the vision of we're going to the top of the mountain.
Yeah.
And whatever obstacles might be on the way, we'll handle them together. So I would just really encourage your students to, and I wish I were there with you. I love that. My favorite thing about teaching and educating is when the light comes on, And so I would just encourage everybody to really create a vision statement and then, make plans, set goals and say, how am I going to get there? And I don't care what job you're in, what you're doing, your choices make a difference. Whether you're buying a t-shirt, am I buying a shirt that is supporting life? Is it life for the factory worker? Is it life for the soil? Is it life for that community? Am I promoting life in my choices? And so it doesn't matter who you are, what you're doing, you have a choice. Yeah. And your choices should hold to your vision.
Yeah. Incredible. That is incredible. So inspiring. And yeah, purpose, vision, and be true to yourself and also do the work. I mean, that is so, so true. So thank you again.
Yeah. It's such great to be here. And you're right. You mentioned truth. You really do have to stand in your truth.
Yeah.
And understand where you are in that landscape. So best of luck to your students on this journey. And I would just love to see them continue on this journey and really drive the changes that we need to see in transforming the industry. So best of luck to everyone.
Thank you. Thank you so much.